Hello, and thank you for joining my talk. I will be presenting our study titled Fake Game but Real Play, exploring player motivations and coping strategies with fake games. My name is Moradzadeh, and on behalf of my co-authors, I'm presenting you with this study. As many of you have already seen, fake games are those mobile titles where the ads show something exciting and engaging, but the reality of the game is very different. This mismatch raises important questions about why people still play them and how they make sense out of the experience. In this presentation, I will walk you through our study, our findings, and what they all tell us about the phenomenon. What you see here is the central phenomenon we're studying. On the left is an example of how the game Fishdom is advertised, dramatic puzzle-like scenarios with high stakes. On the right is the actual gameplay, which looks completely different. Fake games refer to games with an external referent of misleading advertising, often showcasing polished and exciting gameplay, and an internal referent of perceived inauthenticity, where the actual gameplay differs significantly from the advertised experience. Now that we know what fake games are, the next question is, why should we study them? Fake games are incredibly widespread. You have likely encountered these ads yourself. What's fascinating is that players still engage with these games despite the deception. Yet, their lived experiences, why they play, how they make sense of the deception, and what keeps them engaged are unexplored in research. By studying fake games, we can better understand both the appeal and the implications of this deceptive design practice. We situate fake games in three strands of work. First, on legitimacy of fake games, prior studies debate what counts as a real game and connect fakeness to scams or NFTs. But fake games are distinct. They rely on a deliberate ad gameplay mismatch. Second, advertising and deception has been studied in HCI through in-game ads, advert games, and manipulative UX. What's missing is work on deceptive gameplay advertising itself. And third, motivations and coping research shows why people play mobile games and how they deal with the stress or monetization. But we don't know how those motivations and coping strategies play out in fake games. So across these areas, fake games remain unexplored. That's the gap we built on. Our research is motivated to search the question of why do players play fake games and how do players cope with fakeness in fake games. In this study, we conducted 30 semi-structured interviews with mobile game players in the United States. These interviews were held over Zoom, each lasting between 30 and 65 minutes. We recruited participants across different ages, genders, and platforms, including both iOS and Android users, to capture a range of perspectives. For analysis, we used reflexive thematic analysis. This involved iteratively coding transcripts, refining code through team discussions, and reflecting critically on our interpretations. Through this process, we surfaced two central areas of inquiry: the motivations that draw players into fake games, and the coping strategies they adopt when they encounter the mismatch between ads and actual play. In our analysis, we identified four particularly interesting motivations that explain why players engage with fake games. As an example, familiar appeal describes how participants were drawn to games that felt familiar either because they resembled nostalgic favorites like SimCity or because they evoked popular franchises such as Captain America or Iron Man. Even when players recognize the mismatch between the ad and the actual gameplay, that sense of familiarity made them more willing to continue. The second example is what we call investment calculus. Players frame their engagement as low stakes, it costs nothing to download, and deleting a game that doesn't deliver feels effortless. Playable ads reinforce this experimental mindset by offering quick previews. As one participant explained, downloading fake games was simply a process of trial and error. Together, these findings show that fake games succeeded not only because of deceptive advertising, but also because players make sense of them as familiar experiences and low-risk experiments. In looking at how players cope once they recognize the fakeness of these games, here are two examples. In adaptive play, players don't just endure the flaws, they actively adjust how they engage. Some turn on airplane mode to bypass ads entirely, while others multitask by switching between games or using social media during interpretations. This shows their resourcefulness in modifying the play environment to reduce frustration and preserve some level of enjoyment. In proactive avoidance, players become more cautious before downloading, carefully checking reviews, rating, or even permission to screen out potentially fake or invasive games. For some, this vigilance stems from broader privacy concerns, reflecting a heightened awareness of how data might be misused. Together, these strategies highlight that players are not passive victims of deception. They exercise agency by adapting the moment and by taking preventative steps to protect themselves. Our study highlights four main takeaways. First, fake games don't happen by accident. They persist because of deliberate mismatches between what is advertised and what is actually delivered in the game, a practice reinforced by platform-level incentives. Second, players are not passive. They cope in active ways. Some adapt by blocking ads or multitasking, while others proactively avoid risks by checking reviews and permissions before downloading. Third, fake games reflect larger digital trust issues. Beyond misleading ads, players express concerns about data collection, security, and privacy risks, showing that the stakes go beyond gameplay alone. Finally, these issues point to clear opportunities for improvement. Aligning ads with actual gameplay, adopting fairer design practices, and implementing a stronger policy and oversight could reduce harm while meeting player expectations. Thank you for listening.